morning. Happy Hanukkah, good Erev Shabbos. I couldn't believe what I heard this morning on the radio just a few minutes ago. Hugh Hewitt played Tom Perez, who's the head of the Democratic National Committee, give a very anti-Christian speech, a very bigoted anti-Christian speech. And then Hugh Hewitt said, let's just move on. All right, it's horrible, it's bigoted, but let's just move on and do other things. No, don't move on. These people have to be called out. This is, thank you for bringing it to our attention, but you can't just let things like this slide. This is absolutely disgusting and is un-American. So basically what he said was, people they're supporting, he didn't name President Trump by name, they're supporting this guy because all they get their information from is Fox News and from the pulpit on Sunday morning. And at the pulpit on Sunday morning, the man at the pulpit is telling them, which means to indicate that it must be a man, not a woman, right? And it must be telling them the only issue that matters is Roe versus Wade, and we can forget about all these other issues of the environment and this and that and whatever. And like Hugh Hewitt said, he goes to church twice a week. And he said, he can't remember the last time he heard Roe versus Wade be brought up. And it's interesting because I was thinking about that this morning. I don't know why it just crossed my mind, but I was just thinking about, I'll tell you what the whole train of thought was actually, because I was thinking that I would like to be like I'm trying to figure out it's so interesting how I'm very thankful that I have work now, but it's just interesting that from when I was on all these programs, and now thank God I'm not in the programs anymore, how much more difficult it is to keep a budget and everything when you're not on food stamps, and I was making very little money, and the food stamps not that much, but I was able to stick to a budget, and now I want to go food shopping. I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, and I'm trying to go food shopping, something I can't, so there's a lot of interesting issues there, whatever it is. Whatever, then the next day you get paid and it's fine, but you gotta wait, and we all have to deal with that. I'm not complaining, it's part of growing up. It's interesting that, here I'm 34 years old and I'm finally growing up, I feel, the other day we were, my family and we were out in Harrisburg, and we were looking for where we could go out to eat kosher food. And we saw that in Carlisle, about 20 minutes away from Harrisburg. There's a college that has kosher under the Star K, kosher food. And all right, we wouldn't eat the bread because it's not Pas Yisrael, but everything else we eat, pretty much. And it was actually pretty good. And first of all, I was sitting there wow. I have young kids. None of them are B'nai Mitzvah yet. I'm just thinking, my oldest kid looks just like these college kids. These college kids look so young. But then my wife was saying, but I still feel like I'm in college. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel so different. Even than when I was in high school or was in college, I feel like the same person. I guess we all kind of feel like that. But then, look back and all right, I have so many kids. I'm not going to say how many or their ages or anything like that. And all these different things that, and been able to pay the bills and things with help, here and there. But it's we don't have any grandparents left. That's a different world. Not having growing up with all four of my grandparents, thank God, and losing my grandmother. The last one was left earlier this year. Not something I think about that much. I don't really dwell on it. It's just these things. I'm reminding myself, these things are different. But whatever I was thinking, somehow I got to thinking, I want to maybe just to make a little extra money, maybe teach night school. Is there any way I could teach history or philosophy or world religion or Jewish studies, whatever, in a college or community college or something? And just these things crossing my mind as to, what can I do to just get a few extra dollars in my pocket regularly, just to have some breathing room, be able to save some money or something, It's not too far away that, we'll have weddings and bar mitzvahs and things to pay for, and how am I going to manage those things, I'm excited. Still, at least 7-8 years away, but still, that's a blink of an eye, and it's interesting, that I saw the Raleigh Hotel now. They make chasnas there. The Vishnitzer community is there, so that that could be a nice place, especially maybe to make chasana, things like these. These are just the things that go through my mind, Although with my connections in Monroe, make chasana in Monroe. Also possibly have, Baron could be Sar Kedushin, would be very nice, especially I have 2 kids who go to school there. So things like this, crossing my mind. What's life? What does life have in store? I'm very happy with the job I have now. I want to hold on to it, get the pension and everything. It's very exciting to finally have a good job with a future and room for growth and things like this, and then what exactly do we have from here, going on, what kind of job, what kind of, it's interesting, the whole thing, it's fascinating. Can I hold on to this job? I think I can. I think I will. I hope so. But but God could have something else in mind for me. I don't know. But and then I'm thinking, I'd like to maybe have a shul for Shabbos. Even if it's not exactly orthoprax. If they'll take me, because I know the Orthodox don't seem to be interested in me. I applied in Allentown, which would have been decent for me, and they turned me down. They didn't even offer me an interview on the phone or something. At least, there was a shul, Ergot, somewhere in Louisiana, I think. Or they offered me Louisiana, maybe New Orleans. Metarti is a Jewish neighborhood in New Orleans, and they offered. No, it was St. Louis. I'm sorry, St. Louis. They gave me an interview on the phone. It was an Orthodox shul, very liberal Orthodox, and they seemed interested in me. But then they said, they're going to go with someone else. Allentown, this is right here. It would have been great for me, but it's at last it's not in the cards. Then I see an opening now, kind of a non-affiliated shul, more or less conservative style, in Monroe. Not the big conservative shul in Monroe. They just hired a rabbi, but the little one. That would be nice, you know. So it's called B'nai Torah. That's a nice name. It's a Medrash B'nai Torah, but it sounds very frum, you know. Sounds like Beth, Temple Beth El or something. Yeah, I don't know. So that would be nice. Just go there for Shabbos or whatever. But then I'm thinking, they should be teaching night school or something. But the thing is, I need to spend time with my family, and but the thing is, like, I get home from work and they're not home yet from school. It's like, but anyway, I was thinking with the night school, I was thinking how I used to volunteer once or twice a year to speak at a world religion class at VCU, and what going on there. And the last time I went, I was there, and the professor had my friend Rabbi Beck Berman from Petersburg also teaching there, and he was discussing, the in halacha, the halachas of abortion, and then that brought to mind one of my colleagues here. He goes to March of Life every year, and he wrote books about on the sanctity of life and so forth. He's an Orthodox priest, Orthodox Christian priest, and I asked him if he knew Rabbi Yehuda Levin, and he said, yeah. He said, Rabbi Levin, he's like Jeremiah, and it's like, so many people in our community dislike him. So I personally like him. I met him once. I find him to be a fine person. And, I actually went once to one of his things in Washington, D.C., and he's Meister Nefesh. I don't have koyach to go to do these types of things. And here he goes all over and went to see the Pope. He went, it's there's a big chashivas in what he does. Even if people disagree with him, I always say, you have to understand what that means. Is that we're not supposed to have total unity in the Jewish community, and there's a big kiddush Hashem in having someone with a long beard and wears a frock and a beaver hat and this and that, who is going to go and say, how important. He wears a gartel too, by the way. So I don't know what exactly his story is liturgically, but he says he's practically Hasidic. I don't know if he davens Sfard. I know he has a Medrash of Akshay Hashem. Although whenever I saw him, he was davening in Landau's or whatever. Maybe he just put on a gartel because he was at Landau's. I don't know. I mean, I saw him once at Landau's, and I saw him once in D.C. So it's whatever it is, interesting. Lots of interesting things to talk about there. So that's why it came to mind, Roe versus Wade and this and that. But that being said, other than Rabbi Levin, nobody talks about that by us. Hardly anybody talks about that. And like Hugh Hewitt said, he goes to Catholic church, and I forgot what the other church he said, Methodist or something, I know. But Catholics, that's their whole thing, is pro-life, right? And that's what we hear on the outside, but then when you get inside, no, we got plenty of other stuff to talk about. And people are deciding to vote to support the president because, I think, forget about religion, forget about religious issues. we're finally back to work. We're finally making money again. Things are finally good again. America has actually been made great again. It really happened. And instead, there's all this obsession with just trying to find something to say gotcha on. So, I think, especially when you first, I mean, it shouldn't have to just be Christians standing up to this Perez guy. Every American who cares about religious freedom, just like, we have to all stick together, whether it's the attacks by people like Nick Muster against our yeshivas, or whether it's the attacks by what do you call it? By what's it? By Paris against the churches. That's disgusting. So, whatever it is, God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and let's stick together, because religious freedom, that's something that affects all of us. Even if you're an atheist, you need to value religious freedom, because in the Jeffersonian sense, and the true libertarian sense, not in the the problem with the left is they want statism, and so essentially, many people on the left essentially want atheism to be the official religion of America, and it can't be, the atheist should be treated just the same like everybody else. And I'm very supportive of the idea of making, having the church type of setting and fellowship for people who might not believe in anything that they perceive to be supernatural. Which, again, as science goes on, they're going to see we're right more and more. But for now, and science already has discovered many of these issues. We speak a lot about Jung and quantum physics and all kinds of things that are pointing to that there is something beyond just what we can see and feel. So anyway, but still, like I say, for someone who doesn't believe in anything, at least, get together and talk about ethics and morals and things that inspire you and things that make you feel spiritual and things that put meaning in your life, Dedicate some time to that, even if you don't believe. I remember the story of David Gottlieb, Focus Inside, Rabbi Dr. Gottlieb, told us about. There was a girl in the seminary. She didn't want to say brachas because she's an atheist, but someone sent her to seminary, and or maybe she's agnostic, whatever she was. She didn't believe in saying brachas, and all the rabbis in the seminary said, no, you got to say brachas. And Rabbi Gottlieb said, if you don't believe it, don't say it. And all the rabbis were upset at him. I think maybe I don't know if he still teaches in the seminary, who knows. But anyway, he went to his Rebbe, Boston Rebbe, Zatzal. And Boston Rebbe said, no, of course you're right. But what advice can we give? All right, you don't want to say something you don't believe in, but at least before you eat, just stop for a second. And what did he call that? He called that the pause that humanizes. And that's what's essential about being human, is spirituality, having meaning in life, being able to stop, being able to once in a while have some self-control, even though for me it's very hard, and for a lot of people it's very hard, and we got to work on that, but be realistic about it as well. But also engage in tshuva constantly. We have to be a baki b'halacha, mitzvah v'shoiv. You know, that's the whole thing Rabbi Nachman talks about. What does it mean being a baki b'halacha? Being able to go back and forth, mitzvah v'shoiv, running back and forth. Not that we do wrong things on purpose, but it's hard. If it's not one thing, it's something else. You know, you think you've got this one issue under control, and then you know, which is probably, it would seem like something you could never imagine having self-control about, and then you do good for a week or two or something, and then you fall again, but then you're really good at it, and then where you fall in some other area, anger, depression, arrogance, you know. So how do you balance that, you know? So, and the thing is, and then you fix the anger, and then you go back to the old thing, you know. So it's but then there's other things that just somehow, for me, haven't really been an issue. You know, as much as I used to like eating at McDonald's when I was a kid, eating those chicken McNuggets, doesn't cross my mind. And not only that, but as much as I enjoyed something that's kosher, the OUD, the Chex Mix, the traditional Chex Mix, I love that stuff. But somehow, like, you know, like the tzaddikim say, you didn't love the Chex Mix, you love yourself. But even I somehow I don't have a struggle with even clove stam, you know. And for other people it's a big struggle, and I understand whatever it is. But so we all have our things, but try to be better, and it's hard, and just is what it is, you know. So, you know, I'm stuck behind this guy going slow. I'm already late for work. It's all min hashamayim, I know. I mean, it's slippery out. The road's pretty bad. But we gotta get together and defend freedom and liberty, and that is what President Trump is doing, which I didn't expect him to do. I was very uncomfortable with him when he was running. I felt he was just a Democrat in Republicans' clothing. I only voted for him at the time because Hillary Clinton was just so bad. I mean, my whole life, I knew who Donald Trump was, and most of my life I knew who Hillary Clinton was, and Hillary Clinton was always enemy number one. You know, when I was a kid, I remember calling a Christian radio station that was talking about politics and stuff, and I said, well, you know, it says in Exodus, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And I somehow associated that with Hillary. I don't remember the rest of the conversation we had, but they put me on the radio and I said that. You know, I must have been like 15 years old, you know. And the thing is, I would still say 19 years later, 20 years later, I still feel exactly the same way. That's kind of how we were talking earlier about how I feel like I'm still in high school or college, and Hillary Clinton's still there. You know, but George Bush is gone. And the thing was, George Bush, he hasn't been around that much since he left office, and yet Bill Clinton is always bothering us. Obama's always bothering us. And at least Carter, whatever he's doing good stuff. You know, as hard, he was probably one of the worst presidents until Obama. You know, you see, that's why Carter was supporting Obama. He was tired of being the worst president. And, you know, we didn't hear Gerald Ford. We didn't hear anything about him. You know, the Republicans, they just keep quiet, you know. And the thing was I didn't even know, you know, George Bush was doing all this great stuff, but he was keeping quiet. And Bill Clinton and Obama, no, they can't keep their mouths shut. You know. So, but the thing is, look at how much damage Obama did to this country. So, and you know, they hate Trump so much. He's more pro, you know, LGBT than Obama was. And yet and the thing was, and so was who's the other guy they hated? The vice president, Dick Cheney. They hated Dick Cheney. He was more pro LGBT. That was what, you know. It shows it's not about all these things. It's all politics, and it's really But when it comes to Republicans, it's about the people. I mean, that's really. I mean, I realized that after this election, where the Democrats won the House and the Republicans won the Senate, and essentially that was, and I always just thought these names, Democrat, Republican, didn't mean anything. And I realized, and all throughout history, it's really Democrat, it's about democracy, and Republicans, it's about republicanism. And it's really true, because the Senate was supposed to be the Republican body, the Republican body of the legislature, and the House was supposed to be the Democratic House of the legislature. The only real aspect of democracy that was really supposed to be in the Constitution was the House of Representatives. You know, in any direct form. Everything else was indirect democracy and on the federal level. So, I want to listen to Hugh Hewitt. I'm probably missing.
That's right, you did.
Yeah. All right. God bless. Please like, subscribe.